The morning breeze carried the scent of pine and wet soil as Hannah Rivers parked her rental car just outside the weather-worn gates of Stonehill Farm. For the first time in 16 years, she was home. Except it wasn't home anymore. Not really. The house stood exactly as she remembered, stubborn against time. The white paint now more gray than white, the shutters cracked but still clinging to their hinges. The barn slumped a little more, and the hills behind it rolled like sleeping giants toward the tree line. She walked up the gravel path, boots crunching, gripping the envelope that had summoned her here. A letter from the estate of her late uncle, Owen McCrae. She hadn't spoken to him since the falling out with her father, a fracture never mended before Owen's death 3 weeks ago. But now he was gone, and he'd left her something. Not just a letter, not just condolences, an entire farm. The door creaked open before she knocked. A man in his mid-30s stepped out, tall, tanned, and wary. "You must be Hannah," he said. "I'm Eli. I manage the property." Hannah nodded slowly. "You were in the will?" He scratched his neck. "Not exactly. But I was working with Owen up until he passed. He left me instructions. In case you ever came back." That word again. Back. Eli led her inside. Dust danced in the light, caught between the stained glass window above the staircase and the shadowed hallway stretching toward the kitchen. The same quilt still hung over the banister. He handed her a metal key. "Owen left this in the cellar. Said you'd know what to do." She stared at the key, cool and unfamiliar in her palm. "I don't—" Eli gave her a lopsided smile. "Then I guess that's where we start?" That night, Hannah couldn't sleep. The creaks in the walls, the groan of the wind through the chimney, it all whispered of things buried deeper than roots. She lit a lantern and crept down to the cellar. The door was locked. She turned the key. The stairs groaned under her weight. At the bottom, the air was thick with earth and age. Old canning jars lined the shelves. Rusted tools sat like relics. But what caught her eye was the wooden chest beneath the stairs, covered in a tarp. She dragged it out, heart thumping. Inside, ledgers, maps, letters, and a deed. Owen hadn't just left her the land. He'd left her a secret claim in unregistered mineral rights document, naming a hidden vein of valuable stone beneath the property, untouched and forgotten by most. At the bottom of the chest was a photograph. Owen, her father, and a third man strikingly familiar. Though she couldn't place him, she turned the photo over. One word, written in Owen's clean block print, warned. She felt it then, not excitement, not grief, but a weight. A story unfinished. And somewhere out there, someone else knew this land's worth. And they wouldn't wait long. The morning broke cold and clouded, gray light spilling across the fields like ash. Hannah stood on the back porch with a mug of coffee that had long since gone cold, watching Eli tend to the paddock fencing. The man worked like the land was a living thing, and he owed it penance. Every nail, every plank placed with care and a kind of sadness. She hadn't told him what she found in the chest. Not yet. The mineral deed now sat folded inside her leather satchel, tucked between pages of Owen's ledgers. She had spent the better part of the night cross-referencing land plot numbers and dated legal notations, her eyes sore and her mind spinning. Whatever Owen had found, he'd kept it quiet. Quiet enough to never register the claim. Quiet enough to leave it in the hands of a niece he hadn't seen in over a decade. She walked out to meet Eli by the fence. "Morning," he said, not looking up. "Can I ask you something?" He paused, straightened. "You knew my uncle better than I did," she continued. "Do you think he trusted people?" Eli wiped his hands on a rag. "Number. Not easily. Not after the split with your dad. You know what that was about?" He nodded. "I do. But I figure that's a story Owen meant to tell you himself. Well, he's dead. That doesn't mean the story died with him." The county office sat on the far edge of town, near the grain silos and the rusted remains of the old freight depot. Inside, The records clerk was a small woman named Ruthie who wore 2 pairs of glasses and kept peppermints in a ceramic rooster. "I'm looking for property records on the Stonehill farm," Hannah said. "Going back? Maybe 30 years?" Ruthie blinked behind both sets of lenses. "That'll take a minute." As the woman shuffled into the archives, Hannah glanced through the community bulletin board. Lost dogs, church dinners, and at the corner, a flyer with a faded company logo. Echelon Resource Group, Land Partnerships Wanted. The flyer was stamped 2 weeks ago. Her pulse ticked. Ruthie returned with a stack of binders. "You'll want volumes 6 through 9. The McRaes had some add-ons in the 90s. Hannah sat down and began combing through them. It didn't take long to find it. A short legal note in the 1994 file. Right of first refusal on quarry development abandoned claim, Stonehill Northeast Ridge. Terminated for lack of survey. Abandoned. Not denied. Not invalidated. Just. Unclaimed. She took photos of the documents and returned to her car, heart hammering. Someone else had tried to tap that vein. And now, after all these years, someone still might. Back at the farm, she found Eli on the roof of the shed, replacing shingles. "Ever heard of Echelon Resource Group?" she called up. He paused, hammer mid-swing. "Why?" "They've been sniffing around town, offering land partnerships." He climbed down, face set. "They made Owen an offer. Last year. He told them to get lost. Why didn't he register the mineral rights? He said some things were better left buried. But he left me the proof." Eli met her gaze. "Then maybe he wanted you to decide." She didn't respond. Not yet. That night, she took the old map from Owen's chest and laid it across the dining table. It had been marked with red ink, the northeast slope outlined, an X drawn beneath a crescent-shaped ridge. She grabbed her flashlight and a shovel. She hiked the trail up the ridge, past the tree line, until she reached the spot. She dug. Only a few inches down, her shovel hit metal. A tin box. Inside, a bundle of documents wrapped in oilcloth. More deeds. Letters. And a small velvet pouch. She opened it. Inside were 4 rough-cut stone strands, lucent, faintly gold in hue. Quartz, she guessed, but denser, heavier. The letters confirmed it. The vein below the ridge was rich in a rare feldspar composite, commercially valuable in tile and decorative building stone. Export grade. The kind companies like Echelon would pay millions to extract, and Owen had sat on it for years. She heard the snap of a branch behind her. Spinning with the flashlight, she caught movement in the trees. A figure. Watching. Then gone. She ran. Back at the house, she double-locked the doors. Eli found her an hour later, still holding the pouch. "You went up the ridge," he said. "I found the stash. And there's more than quartz up there." He sat across from her. "Then you have a decision to make." She nodded slowly. "Yeah. But not just about the land." He waited. "Someone followed me." Eli stiffened. "Describe him." "I didn't get a look. I'll take the dogs up in the morning. I think they know what's up there." Eli sighed. "They always did." She looked out the window. The land stretched dark and endless. And somewhere, someone was watching, waiting. She placed the stones on the table. One by one, they caught the kitchen light and glowed. Morning light had barely crept over the hills when Eli set out with the dogs, their noses close to the ground, tails low and tense. Hannah watched from the kitchen window, a coffee cup clutched in both hands, knuckles white. Her mind churned with images of last night, the snap of the twig, the silhouette, the shimmer of the stones. What had Owen uncovered, and who else knew? By the time Eli returned, his expression told her everything. "Tracks," he said, wiping his brow with his flannel sleeve. "Fresh. Size 11 boot. Heavy stride. Came from the South Woods. Circled your dig site. Then left fast." Hannah's pulse ticked. "That's no hunter." "No," Eli agreed. "That's someone looking for something. They went inside, unspoken tension settling around them like dust. Eli grabbed a pad of paper and began sketching the tread pattern from memory. Military. Or at least tactical. Not some local with a shotgun and a coonhound. Whoever it was, he muttered. They're trained. That word sat hard between them. Trained. Prepared. Dangerous. Later that day, Hannah took the pickup into town. Eli didn't argue, just told her to keep her phone visible and the pistol loaded in the glove compartment. She hadn't fired it in years. She hoped she wouldn't need to. Stonehill's main street looked the same. 2 blocks of shops, a diner with a flickering neon sign, and an old pharmacy that still used a manual register. But something about the place felt tighter now. Eyes lingered longer. Conversations hushed when she entered. At the post office, a man in a dark suit stood just outside the door, thumbing a phone. He looked up when she passed. "Miss Rivers?" She stopped. "Yes?" He smiled, teeth too straight. "Name's Clay Monroe. I'm with Echelon Resource Group." "Thought I'd introduce myself, been trying to get in touch." Her jaw clenched. "You've been near my property. Can't confirm or deny that." He handed her a card. She didn't take it. "We're offering fair compensation," he continued. "For mineral access, that's all. Win-win scenario. You get a payout. We get a few weeks of controlled excavation. And when it's stripped bare?" He laughed like she'd told a joke. "There's more value in relationships than rocks. We're not here to pillage." She turned to leave. "One more thing," he called. She paused. "Your uncle played a dangerous game sitting on that claim. You're smarter than that, I think." That night, Hannah couldn't shake the encounter. Clay's words reeked of threat masked in velvet. She locked the doors again, checked the windows twice. The next morning brought something unexpected. A letter slipped under the back door. It wasn't stamped, no address. Just a folded note inside a brown envelope. "They want more than stone. They're after what Owen really found. Don't trust Eli. A friend." Her breath caught. She read it again. And again. Don't trust Eli. That afternoon she watched him closely. The way he moved through the barn. The way he spoke to the neighbor who brought over feed. Nothing seemed off. But paranoia had already seeped into her bloodstream. Who else could she trust? She called Ruthie at the records office. "Did my uncle ever file private permits? Anything under another name?" "Can't say," Ruthie replied. "But I can check cross-registry holdings." Might take a few hours. Hannah waited, pacing the porch, listening to crows overhead. When Ruthie called back, her voice shook. "There's a name tied to a property line along your northeast ridge, registered under a Shell LLC about 6 months ago. Name of the company? Stonewatch Holdings." She froze. Owen's journal had mentioned that once. Briefly. Just a single line. "If Stonewatch resurfaces, we'll have to bury everything again." The letter was right. It wasn't about quartz. Not anymore. That night, Hannah returned to the chest beneath the cellar. She tore through the papers again, searching for anything with Stonewatch. In the bottom, she found a second hidden panel taped against the underside of the lid. Inside, a folder marked Confidential 1989 Survey Unsubmitted. The map inside showed something she hadn't expected. A fault line. Not just any. A rift vein traced with annotations. Beneath it, hand. Scribbled notes from a geologist named Henry Bramble. The vein ran deeper than quartz. Underneath, a layer of rare earth minerals used in satellites, missile tech, high-performance batteries. Stuff that sold not by the pound, but by the gram. And Owen hadn't told anyone. Now it made sense. Why Echelon was here. Why they were watching. Why Owen had warned about Stonewatch. She needed proof. The next day, she drove to the regional university to meet with a geology professor who'd worked with Owen back in the 80s. Dr. Kara Hensley was sharp, silver-haired, and wore hiking boots with her lab coat. Hannah laid out the samples and maps. Kara's eyes lit up. These aren't just feldspar. This is bastnasite and haramonazite. Do you know what this means? Hannah shook her head. Military. Grade rare earth elements. This vein could be worth hundreds of millions. If exposed, a geopolitical asset. And if someone wanted to hide that? Kara nodded gravely. Then Owen was protecting something much bigger than his land. As Hannah drove home, storm clouds gathered. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging or we'll bury what's left. She gripped the wheel tighter. Whatever this was, it wasn't just about inheritance. It was war. Hannah barely slept that night. The warning text echoed through her thoughts like a drumbeat. Stop digging, or we'll bury what's left. She had never been one to rattle easily. But this wasn't just legal pressure or corporate greed anymore, this was veiled violence. Morning fog hugged the hills, creeping low across the vineyard rows like ghosts reluctant to leave. Hannah poured herself a black coffee, her nerves raw. Eli hadn't come by yet. She didn't know whether to be relieved or more afraid. That note, don't trust. Eli kept looping in her head. She needed allies. Someone she could trust who wasn't tangled up in Stonehill's legacy. She called Dr. Kara Hensley. Kara, I need more than confirmation, she said. I need evidence that can hold up in court or the press. Kara didn't hesitate. Send me the coordinates of the ridge. I have a student intern with a drone and GPR scanner. We'll survey it discreetly. Can you keep it quiet? My labs handled more sensitive work for less. But if what you're saying is true, you need to prepare for a counterattack. Hannah ended the call, her mind spinning. She had 48 hours until the survey crew arrived. Whatever Echelon or Stonewatch was planning, they wouldn't wait much longer. That afternoon, Eli showed up. He wore his usual denim and boots, face unreadable. I patched the southern fence, he said, wiping his brow. Found some strange tire tracks near the logging road. Echelon? She asked, watching his reaction. Too narrow for company trucks. Maybe a scout vehicle. He paused. You okay? You look wired. She hesitated. Someone's been watching. I got a threat. Eli froze. What kind of threat? She debated telling him about the note especially, the line that said not to trust him, but decided to measure his reaction first. Someone knows what's under the ridge, she said. They don't want me digging. He nodded slowly, then did something unexpected. He walked to the shed and returned with a battered metal case. Inside was a rifle. Cleaned and ready. Keep it close, he said simply. She blinked. That's it? If someone's threatening you, we don't wait for them to knock. We set the trap first. The comment rattled her more than it comforted her. At midnight, Hannah sat in the cellar again, surrounded by maps, legal documents, and Owen's notes. She noticed something she'd missed before, a receipt, dated just 2 months before Owen died. A storage unit rental in Montrose, 40 miles away. Listed under a different name. Harlan Greeley. She checked the local database. Owen had no known alias, but the address traced to a rural facility, secure, off-grid, and obscure. The next morning, she drove there. The manager, a nervous man in his 60s, confirmed Harlan Greeley had leased Unit 14 for 6 years. I have power of attorney, Hannah said, handing over a forged letter she had Kara's legal friend draft. He relented, handed her a key. Inside Unit 14 was a metal cabinet. 3 drawers. 1 folder. Inside the folder, photos of trucks marked with Echelon's logo pulling unmarked crates. Newspaper clippings of mining protests in Arizona and Oregon. And a flash drive. Hannah plugged it into her laptop in the car. Video footage. Dated 2021. Grainy drone capture of men burying barrels near Stonehill's Ridge. Illegal dumping. Possibly hazardous. And Owen's voice on a memo. If they discover the rare earth line, they'll come at us from both sides. The land and the law. We have to bury the data until it's safe. She sat back in her seat. Echelon wasn't just after minerals. They were covering up a crime. That night, the survey drone arrived. Kara's intern, Milo, set up camp near the ridge, pretending to be a landscape photographer. Within hours, the GPR scanner mapped a narrow fault line running nearly 200 meters long and 30 meters deep, more than enough to confirm Owen's claim. Milo uploaded the data to a secure cloud drive and texted, "Got it. But someone's been here recently. Fresh rope marks. And a sensor half buried. Someone's watching the site." Hannah forwarded the footage to Kara, who in turn looped in a contact at the State Geological Board. A plan was forming. They'd file a public notice of survey results, forcing Echelon's hand. But the enemy struck first. That night, her truck was vandalized. Tires slashed. Windows shattered. A message etched in the hood. "Final warning." Eli arrived 15 minutes later. When he saw the damage, his hands curled into fists. "We need to get that footage somewhere public," he said. "I have someone working on that. Then we don't wait." "What are you saying?" "We go to the sheriff, tonight." Sheriff Tom Rayner listened to their story with a skeptical face until he saw the drone footage. "Jesus," he muttered. "That's felony. Grade dumping." He picked up his phone, called a deputy, and had the evidence locked into an official report. "But this won't be quiet," he warned. "You expose this, and the whole region's gonna hear it." "Good," Hannah said. "Let them listen." As they left the station, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Should have stayed gone, Miss Rivers. You just signed your own warrant." Eli stepped closer. "We go to ground. Lock the place down." She looked back toward the hills, where fog crawled over the ridge like a predator stalking prey. And for the first time, she didn't feel afraid. She felt ready. The following morning broke sharp and windless. A brittle silence hung over the farm like frost before a storm. Hannah rose early, boots crunching on the gravel as she walked to the barn, every sense heightened. Eli had been up before her. He'd reinforced the doors and set tripwires along the tree line. "You expecting a war?" she asked. He gave a dry smile. "Number preparing for one." She almost believed him, but the words from that note still clawed at her. Don't trust Eli. Milo's drone footage and geological data had been filed with the state the previous night, but it would take time for the system to move. Too much time. They needed public pressure now, media, exposure, something that couldn't be silenced behind a legal desk. So Hannah called Kara. "We go public," she said. "Full release. Video. Photos. Everything." "I've got a journalist lined up," Kara replied. "Local news in Denver. She's covered Echelon's Arizona scandal before. I'll send her your way." That same afternoon, a woman in a red windbreaker and dusty hiking boots pulled into the gravel lot of Stonehill. She introduced herself as Sloane Dyer, an investigative reporter for Rocky View Press. "Let's make sure I get the story right," Sloane said, flipping open her notebook. "And don't hold back. I've seen corporations like Echelon scrub cleaner than bleach, and they still leave blood on the floor." They walked the ridge. Milo met them at the top and replayed the drone scans and photos. Sloane's eyes grew wide. "This is industrial dumping, on private land, and you're sitting on a multi-million-dollar vein of restricted mineral compounds?" "That's the gist," Hannah said. "And they know you know." Hannah nodded. "They've threatened me. Destroyed my property. And someone's been watching us for days." Sloane shook her head. "I need 48 hours to publish. But this is big." That night, the dogs barked. Hannah jolted awake, heart thumping. She reached for the rifle Eli left beside the bed. Outside, in the darkness beyond the porch, flashlights danced like will-o'-the-wisps. Someone was out there. Eli appeared in the hallway, rifle already in hand. "Stay inside." But she followed anyway, stepping into the biting air, hard in her throat. They reached the barn just as a figure slipped behind it. "Hey!" Eli shouted. The man froze. He was tall, in his 30s, wearing dark, tactical gear. No company logos, no insignia. "Don't move." The man bolted. Eli fired a warning shot. The stranger vanished into the tree line. They found a device wired to the barn's south walla listening unit, still warm. This isn't just corporate anymore, Hannah said. No, Eli agreed. This is intelligence. Grade surveillance. Why? Because someone higher up is invested in keeping this quiet. The next day, everything escalated. Sloane's article dropped at noon. Buried Truth: How One Colorado Farm Uncovered a Rare Earth Scandal and a Decades. Long cover-up. Within hours, it spread. Local television picked it up. Then state. By evening, a national blog had reposted it, complete with drone scans and Owen's recorded memo. Echelon issued a cold, dismissive statement. Unfounded claims. Misunderstood data. No wrongdoing confirmed. But it was too late. A crowd of reporters gathered outside the county office. Kara's lab was flooded with requests for interviews. Activists and environmental watchdogs began organizing. Then came the fire. It happened around midnight. Hannah woke to smoke. Thick. Suffocating. She stumbled down the stairs to see the barn ablaze, orange light painting the night in horror. "Eli!" she screamed. He was already there, trying to douse the flames with a hose. It was no use. The fire was deliberate, fast, and violent. They stood back, helpless, as it burned to the ground. "What was in there?" she asked. "Tools. The old plow. Some records. Nothing critical." But she saw the look in his eyes. There had been something. The next morning, the sheriff's department confirmed arson. No suspects. No fingerprints. Only tire tracks. "They're sending a message," Eli said. "But they're slipping. Desperate men burn things when they're losing." But Hannah wasn't so sure. That burn had been surgical. Professional. That afternoon, she received a call. "Blocked number. Miss Rivers," a voice said. "Male." Calm. "You've made quite a stir. This story will die like the others." Quietly. Inevitably. "You can still walk away." She laughed. "You think I'm afraid? I think you're outnumbered. I've got a public and the truth." The line went dead. That evening, she and Eli sat on the porch. "You've done enough," he said. "You can leave. Sell the land. Start over." "I'm not running," she said. "Not again." He turned to her. "Then there's one more card to play." He reached into his jacket and handed her a slip of paper. "Coordinates. Not on the ridge, but east, near the old orchard. Owen's real safe," he said. "Not the one in the cellar, the one no one knows about, except me." She stared at him. "Why now?" "Because I had to be sure you were ready." They hiked out at dawn. Mist clung to the grass. At the edge of the orchard, beneath an unmarked stone, they dug. A metal crate. Inside, hard drives, letters, contracts, and a sealed envelope addressed to Hannah. She opened it. Owen's handwriting, shaky but firm. "If you're reading this, then you stayed. You fought. You didn't let them buy you off or scare you silent." Inside are the records reel survey scans, whistleblower affidavits, signed memos from Echelon execs. "Everything they buried, I kept. I trust you more than I ever could trust myself. Finish what I couldn't." Her hands trembled. Eli looked at her. "Well?" She stood. "We finish this." The sun had barely cleared the horizon when Hannah and Eli returned from the orchard, dirt still caked to their boots. Hannah carried the metal crate, like it was wholly a reliquary of truth, buried in silence. She didn't speak, didn't need to. Inside the house, she spread the documents across the dining table. Signed memos, internal audits, aerial surveys, voice recordings. Every piece painted a picture of a corporate conspiracy stretching over 2 decades: illegal mineral extraction, environmental contamination, bribes to county officials. Kara joined them by noon, flanked by 2 legal aides from her university's law department. She scanned the documents, her sharp eyes glowing with a mix of awe and fury. "This is enough to sink them," she whispered. "But not enough to keep us safe," Eli muttered. "Not unless we go nuclear." Hannah's fingers trembled as she held up Owen's final message. He didn't want revenge. He wanted daylight. He wanted this out in the open. They made a plan. That night, Sloan Dyer hosted a live-stream press event. No corporate filters, no network interference. Just raw, uncut evidence from the heart of Stonehill. More than 100,000 viewers joined. Kara outlined the geological survey. Milo narrated the drone footage. Hannah read aloud from Owen's letter. When she reached the end, she didn't cry. Her voice didn't shake. She stood tall. We will not sell. We will not run. We will not be silenced. Within the hour, whistleblowers from Echelon reached out to Kara's legal team. One of them, a former project manager, agreed to go on record. 2 state senators issued statements by morning. And then finally, FBI got involved. The raid came quietly, professionally. 4 days later, Echelon's satellite office in Denver was shut down. Records seized. Servers imaged. A board member was arrested trying to fly out of the country. The sheriff embarrassed, but Cooperative apologized publicly for ignoring early reports. Stonehill became more than a farm. It became the center of a reckoning. Weeks passed. The barn was never rebuilt. Hannah left the ruins as a reminder. She restored the vineyard, not for profit, but for memory. She built a small educational retreat on the ridge, naming it after Owen. School groups and scientists began visiting, studying the land, learning about its past. She donated the mineral claim to a conservation trust, ensuring it would never be exploited. Sloan's story won a National Journalism Award. And LOL, she kept him close. But not too close. She never fully forgot the warning. Trust, once broken, remained delicate. Still, he stayed. When fall came, and the first frost kissed the grapes, Hannah stood on the porch of the house that once felt like a stranger. Now it was hers. Truly. Stonehill had nearly been taken, but in the end it stood. And so did she.